Welcome everybody to the August meeting of the nonprofit plant-based nutrition organization of Wisconsin, or PB Now. I'm Terry Lynch. The mission of our nonprofit group is to educate, inspire, and support each other on an evidence-backed, whole food, plant-based nutritional path for health and improved quality of life. Our group is open to everyone, those plant-based and those just curious about it. It's meant to be a non-judgmental place to come get information, inspiration, and support. If you'd like more information about our group, our upcoming meeting dates, speakers, or other events and resources, you can go to our website, which is pbnow.org or pbnow.org. As we do each time, can I see a show of hands, either by raising your hand or using the thumbs up reaction, the icon, of how many of you are currently plant-based or following a plant-based lifestyle? That's great. I'm seeing them pop up here. I'd say that's just about half at this point. Hi, Jessica. As we mentioned at the beginning of each meeting, and I'll do this quickly, the evidence of the benefits of plant-based nutrition in improving health and quality of life for people of all ages, as published in non-biased medical research, is quite striking. Whether it's improving health through increased energy, weight loss, preventing, slowing, stopping, or reversing problems like allergies, digestive problems, diabetes, heart disease, and early dementia, or increasing our quality of life by helping us feel better quickly with a stronger immune system, more endurance, better athletic performance, fast recovery from exercise, less painful joints, and clearer thinking. Plant-based nutrition may also help us with the physical, emotional, and financial side effects of illnesses and of the drugs and procedures often recommended to treat them. The research shows that our bodies do a wonderful job of healing themselves if we stop inadvertently damaging them at breakfast, lunch, and dinner with poor nutrition and start giving them the nutrition they need to heal and to work as painlessly and wonderfully as they were meant to work. It's truly remarkable. Excuse me. Now let me tell you what's in store for you tonight. You'll see a short video and then hear from three speakers. Our first speaker will be our PB Now Medical Director, Dr. Joshua Liberman. Next, we'll hear from plant-based cooking instructor Amberly Childs. And she will lead a group discussion on our favorite no-oil sauces. After our discussion, we'll hear from our featured speaker, New York dermatologist, Dr. Jessica Krant. Will talk to us about the benefits of plant-based eating for our skin. Our program should end by 7:30. As a reminder, we have meetings every month, usually on the second Thursday of the month at 6 p.m. Central Time. Again, you can find out more information about our meetings and other events on the website, pbnow.org. Let me quickly mention two things here, too. We had hoped to resume in-person meetings for those who wanted to come in person in September, as well as we wanted to begin small group potlucks in September. But with the rise in the new COVID cases from the Delta variant, we're postponing the initiation of in-person monthly meetings for now. But we do hope to get back to them as soon as it feels safe to do that. And we hope to be able to keep the Zoom option open even when we are doing in-person meetings for those showing up in person. As a quick technical note, during the meeting, everyone but the speakers will be muted, and we ask that you stay that way to avoid background noise unless Amberly or someone else asks you to unmute to join in the discussion. All right, here we go. So our meetings usually concentrate on the considerable health and quality of life benefits of eating plant-based, but there are other benefits as well. And one of those benefits is that plant-based diets are easier on the environment. With the publication and release of the UN report just recently on the environment, people have heightened concerns and wonder if there's anything they can do to make a difference. I'm going to show a quick, it's about a 1.5 minute long video touching on the environmental effects of eating a plant-based diet. And bear with me here as I try to figure out how to do this. I think that should be right here. Let's see. Oops. Just back off for a second here. Try this one more time to optimize the sound. Here we go, I hope.
This is Carl, and this is Joe. Carl and Joe both live in the same city, in the same kind of house, and drive the same car. Carl is an omnivore, and Joe eats a plant-based diet. They eat about the same amount of food every day. But because of his diet, Joe uses 300 gallons of water per day, while Carl uses 4,000. Also because of his diet, Carl uses 8 times more fossil fuels than Joe. And Joe's annual carbon footprint is 1.5 tons, while Carl's is 2.5 tons. Carl's diet means he uses 5 times more land than Joe, and meaty diets like his cause 70% of rainforest destruction. Carl weighs about 30 pounds more than Joe, and Joe's risk for heart disease, diabetes, stroke, and cancer are all significantly lower than Carl's. This means that Carl will die an average of 9.5 years sooner than Joe, while Joe will have spared tens of thousands of animals in his lifetime. Because of his diet, Joe is healthier, kinder to animals and the environment. Be like Joe. Eat a plant-based diet.
Hopefully that was, could everybody hear that? Excellent. I thought that was very, very cute. And if you want to see that video again, you can just go to YouTube. And I think the title is a plant-based diet really better for the environment and your health? And if you take it to the end, there is a slide that shows where they got all the information that they used in the video. So I hope you enjoy that. Our first speaker tonight is a fellowship-trained cardiologist practicing cardiology at Ascension Columbia St. Mary's here in Milwaukee. He is past president of the Wisconsin chapter of the American College of Cardiology. And he's also a member of the National American College of Cardiology Prevention Work Group that includes people like Dr. Ornish, Dr. Esselstyn, Dr. Barnard, and many others that are recognizable nationally. He is an advocate for the use of plant-based nutrition to help improve heart health, general health, and quality of life, and has seen the benefits of plant-based nutrition in both his personal life and that of his patients. We're fortunate to have him practicing here in Milwaukee and with us tonight. I'm happy to welcome our first speaker tonight, Dr. Joshua Liberman. Josh?
Thank you. Thanks for the kind introduction, as always. You can hear me okay, I take it?
Yes, I can.
Good, wonderful. All right, thanks for everybody for being on the call tonight. Thanks again for dedicating some of your time. I know that we're all very, very, very tired of Zoom calls and Zoom meetings. Unfortunately, though, as Terry said, it does seem like it's going to persist for a little bit longer. Thanks, Terry, for sharing that video. I guess I have to say the one thought that I had when I saw that, though, is that might not be completely accurate that Carl and Joe have vastly different carbon footprints, simply because one of the facts that they said is entirely true, which is that the meat-eating guy is going to die much earlier than the plant-eating guy. But as a result of him dying earlier, he doesn't have much of a carbon footprint after that. And so the other guy, the plant-eating one, is going to live so much longer that they might actually end up having an equal carbon footprint. It's just that the plant-based guy got to enjoy a much longer life as a result of that. So And obviously that's said in a little bit of jest, but you do have to be careful with research like that, because you do have something called it's basically competing causes of death, and that's why you see sometimes some research that shows that people who smoke um, don't cost as much to the healthcare system. And you say, well, how can that be? I mean, don't they have like lung cancer and heart attacks and don't? Well, yes, they do, but they die so much earlier than other healthier people that they no longer then have added costs to the system after they die. And so you just have to be a little bit careful with research like that, because sometimes there are reasons for the data to come out that way. If somebody says, oh, well, there's no difference in cost or something like that, and you just have to dig a little deeper. I actually just had, this is reminding me, I just had this conversation just yesterday with a doctor about cholesterol. And he was asking me whether having a low cholesterol is truly a good thing, right? Because there's some research out there that says that people with low cholesterol actually have an equal or higher rate of death than people with high cholesterol. And so the argument being, well, if they have a higher rate of death, or if they have an equal rate of death, then why do we care about cholesterol? I shouldn't go on this medication. I shouldn't worry about it. I shouldn't do anything like that. And the problem with that approach is the same exact thing, is that many people, freestanding, free-range people not on medications, who naturally have low cholesterol, there's oftentimes a reason for it, like liver failure, like some forms of cancer, and like just actually end-stage diseases nearing death, where the liver begins to shut down and it doesn't make cholesterol anymore. And if you add all those people into your study, into your observation group, and you just care only about their cholesterol, you're going to say, well, yeah, there's a high rate of death in people with low cholesterol. But you're not identifying the real true causal reason for that. And as a result, you're conflating, or you're confusing the issue of cholesterol really with death. And so that's the issue with some of the arguments against, say, statin medications, or against treating cholesterol and making it lower. So you just have to be a little bit careful when you're talking about statistical research like that. Okay, but that wasn't the point of me being on here. It's just something that came up that I thought of as Terry showed that. As most of you know, I usually talk about something that came from the clinical experience I've had in the last couple of weeks, as well as a patient case, and then a factoid. I always share patient cases, and of course, we're all on this call. We all know what happens. You go to a plant-based diet, your numbers get better. You get off diabetes medicine, your blood pressure gets better, you feel a lot better, right? So I don't actually want to highlight that again. I mean, we'll do that in future ones. And again, every week I'm getting patients that are making changes and are just so happy with themselves because of how much healthier they are. But one thing I just wanted to highlight out there, and it's just a personal frustration of mine. I just got off the ward service last week. So I was on the inpatient service at Ascension Columbia St. Mary's on the east side. And, we have a lot of patients, obviously, that come in with heart attacks, with heart problems. And we had one patient who had just had a heart catheterization the day before and had, significant blockages found and had treatment. And I walked into his room the next day to talk to him about, what's going to happen that day. You're going to get discharged, all that, testing and everything. And sure enough, he's eating, pancakes with butter and sausage. I was like, gosh darn it. Now, this isn't just a critique of my own hospital. We can critique my hospital. The problem is almost all hospitals are the same way. And it's just a big frustration amongst many of us health conscious, preventive minded doctors that we can't serve our patients healthy food. But, as I said, this is not so much a new finding for me. I often do it, but it prompted a conversation, of course. And I said to the patient, I said, you did have a choice on the menu, and I have a little bit of a concern about your choice of waffles with sausage. Now, part of that is on the doctor team. We should have made sure he was on the cardiac diet, which I've advocated strongly for, and got them, after a lot of annoying emails, got them to take the processed meat off of it. But more to the point, the patient said, yeah, but doc, this is what I eat. And my response to that, as it usually is, was, yeah, and that's why you're in the hospital with a heart attack. And people just don't always make that connection, that it's because of their diets that they end up in the heart doctor's office, that they end up in the hospital, that they end up with bad events. I think a lot of people are of the mind that it's bad luck. it's coincidence. It's just something that happens, and geez, it happened to me, that kind of thing. And we don't realize the agency that we have, the control that we have over our outcomes. And in a conversation with this patient, he said, doc, I've been eating this my whole life. I've been he actually, it got a little more fun than that. He said, but I love bacon, doc. I think I think the guy who created bacon is the smartest person on the planet. This is what we're fighting, unfortunately. And this is why he ended up with a heart attack. And this is why he has a stent. And this is why, he's going to be a heart patient moving forward. But the point being is that it really just crystallizes how big the struggle is, and how much of an uphill struggle we are all facing with our communities and our country and the world, really, that is set up in an unhealthy way. So that's the clinical experience that I want to talk about. Just to say, just so you know, we are continuing to work on trying to provide healthy food in our hospitals. It's a struggle, that's for sure. But that it's the decisions we make that decide our health. And in relationship to that, the study I want to talk about actually was a study that came out this month in the Journal of the American Heart Association. And it looked at something called the CARDIA study, CARDIA, which is a really, really cool observational study that enrolled about 5,000 people between the ages of 16 and 30 over almost 40 years ago. So the early to mid 80s, they enrolled 5,000 people, younger side, 16 to 30 years old, in, I think it was 5 major metropolitan areas across the country. And they did intakes, they did diet assessments, they did health assessments, they did, medication, all these different kinds of things to try to get a very robust baseline assessment of these patients. And then they followed them for the next 35 years, 36 years. And they've been publishing all along some really interesting research that comes out of this, all about, calcium scores and heart disease and lipids and cholesterol and blood pressure and all this stuff. But the study that just came out looked at the effects of a plant-centric diet. Now they weren't looking at a plant-based diet. They were using a slightly different survey tool that really looks at a plant-centric diet. So, and higher scores on this survey tool mean a healthier, more plant-based diet, and lower scores are a more unhealthy animal meat-based diet. And what they found was that patients at the beginning of the study and 35 years later, who had a very plant-centric diet at both of these time points, had a 52% reduction in cardiovascular events compared to the highest scorers versus the lowest scorers. So the people who are in what's called the highest quintile, so they divided into 5 sections, 5 groups based on their score in the survey tool. The highest quintile had the most plant-centric, and the lowest had the least plant-centric. And the highest versus the lowest had a 52% reduction in cardiovascular events. So obviously very important. But you say, boy, doc, am I out of luck then? Because I haven't been plant-based since I was 16 years old. Well, you're in luck, because the other thing that they studied was people who became more plant-centric over time. And so they looked at people who had the biggest change from start to finish, who became, and you didn't have to necessarily become the most plant-centric, but even if you went from the first quintile, the lowest group, to say the third or the fourth, you had a big magnitude of change rather than just going from the 4th to the 5th, say. And the magnitude of change, the people who had the biggest magnitude of change in the direction of a plant-centric diet had a 60+%. It was like 62% reduction in cardiovascular events. Like, that's huge. I mean, think about that. So what that tells me, it's not too late. You don't have to start super early, but the earlier you start, the more you can move, the better you're going to be, right? And so this, again, harkens back to that patient, on the wards, that if you can make change, it doesn't matter where you are. Have you had an event? Have you not had an event? Wherever you are on the spectrum, if you move in that direction, you're going to get benefit. And then, as you guys probably know by me at this point, I'm plant-based. Not all of you on this call, maybe. That's okay. Because again, this survey tool did not look exclusively at plant-based as a yes or no binary answer, like you're either in or you're out, and if you're out, you're in trouble. It wasn't that way. This was a plant-centric diet, which meant some people were eating meat, some people were eating fish. Again, we think that that, it's not part of a healthy diet. Certainly, it's not part of an optimal diet. Certainly, if I had heart disease, I would want to be as optimal and as healthy as I could be. But the point being is that you don't have to feel like it's 100% or 0%, right? Whatever you're doing, it's great. Just keep moving in a healthier direction, keep moving in a plant-based direction, and you're going to get even more benefit, right? So thanks for inviting me on, as always. Thanks for being part of this this journey together. Thanks for being part of this community, and let's all be healthy together.
Josh, thank you so much. That was excellent. It's just amazing what eating plants can do. And they're less expensive. They were the first things that people started eating. It wasn't until I think it was after World War II that we started spending so much time eating processed food, and that without great results. Excuse me here as I get caught up. I should have had this already. It's been said that the most important ingredient in any sustainable, healthy diet is taste. If you're eating things you don't like, you're not going to stick with it, most probably. Some people complain that plant-based food can be tasteless, especially when those that are transitioning to plant-based eating before they begin to feel the physical benefits that kind of hook you to plant-based eating. And before your taste buds have a chance to adjust to the absence of the overwhelming presence of fat, sugar, and salt that you've probably been used to eating. The fact is that the standard American diet can be pretty tasteless itself. Check out some institutional food, and many people grew up in households where whomever was putting meals together maybe didn't have a lot of time, maybe not a lot of money, or maybe not a lot of skill to put something tasty on the table. So I'm sure some of us grew up knowing that standard American diet can be tasteless. Without spices, seasonings, sauces, or dressings, things can sometimes seem a little bland. For many of us who've been eating plant-based for a while, the taste buds adjust. You discover a variety of wonderful tastes in fruits, vegetables, beans, and whole grains. Tastes that we missed when our taste buds were overwhelmed by the salt, sugar, and fat of what has become a standard American diet. But until someone reaches that point of taste bud adjustments, and even after they've reached it, sauces, dressing, dips, herbs, and spices offer a more seamless transition to to plant-based food. Over the next 20, 30 minutes and during the next few monthly meetings, we'll be discussing ways to add taste to your plant-based meals in a way that is healthy, affordable, and hopefully easy. Now let me introduce our discussion leader. She's the founder and operator of the Milwaukee-based plant-based company Plant Joy, through which she teaches plant-based cooking classes and offers an ever-expanding menu of home-delivered plant-based meals, providing an easy way to incorporate plant-based nutrition into your life. You can find more information specifically about Plant Joy at plantjoy.net. She was trained and certified as a plant-based cooking instructor in the Food for Life program run by Dr. Barnard at Dr. Barnard's Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, PCRM, in Washington, D.C. There are a number of Food for Life certified instructors in the country, but many areas of the country don't have the luxury of having one nearby. We not only have one in Milwaukee, but she's excellent. To lead our group discussion on sauces, here's plant-based cooking instructor Amberly Childs. And Amberly, we're going to try to, unfortunately, we want to make sure that we start at 6:40 or 6:45 with our featured speakers. So it's maybe a little bit shorter than we had hoped for the discussion.
Sounds good to me. Can you hear me okay?
Sure can.
All right, I'm using my earbuds and this is new for me, so hooray for technology. So good evening, everybody. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight. So our discussion tonight, when I switched to plant-based, my diet and regimen, obviously, how do you saute without oil? And how do we make these choices? And people were like, well, how do you cook? And so the no oil saute was one of the first steps that I made in my kitchen. And then I started transitioning to making my own dressings and sauces because they last longer. If I have to throw them away, I know, the value of what I'm getting rid of, and I know what's in them. There's not hidden ingredients, and the list of ingredients isn't this long. So you have a little bit more control over what you are creating. And then I think you'll find they taste really good, as Terry was talking about the taste. So when Terry came up with this topic, I wanted to reference really quickly one of my favorite first love of dressings that I found. So this one is, and this book is super beat up, but the Engine 2 Diet. So one of the, old school kind of original plant-based ideas from Rip Esselstyn. But anyways, in the back of the book, there's some really good dressings, but the one that I really love is the E2, so Engine 2 basic dressing. And if you Google no oil dressings, a version of this pops up a lot of different places. So I'll type it in the chat before I'm done. But basically, it's tamari, mustard, nutritional yeast, balsamic vinegar, a little bit of sweetener of your choice. So is it agave, maple syrup, a little bit of citrus. So is it lemon, lime, or an orange juice? And they use a wheat germ, which I wasn't really aware of wheat germ, but really what it does is it thickens the sauce. And it allows it to kind of stay shelf stable. And then I would just kind of shake it and it reconstructs the sauce. But really it's using the balsamic vinegar as that base. It's really strong. And then you can add maybe a little bit of like the Dijon mustard gives it a little kick. Maybe you want a spicy Dijon mustard in there. And then you hit a little bit of the sweetness in there. So you kind of are hitting all of the important palate parts on your tongue, the sweet, the salty, the savory. And that to me makes a really good dressing. And I find that when I want to go back and make something, I really go back to this dressing that's kind of been a tried and true for me. And I've been eating this way for 11 years now. And it was one of the first dressings that I ever made. So I'm glad that I got to go back, and I'll share it with you all in the chat function later. But now I really would love to hear from you. And I know some of you have gotten really good in the kitchen. You've gotten really creative in the kitchen, and we want to hear from you. So if you don't want to talk, type it in the chat box. If you do want to talk, raise your hand. You can just talk. You can say, hey, I'm going to talk now in the chat box. Unmute yourself because we'd love to hear from you. All right, somebody, come on.
Gonna jump in here for a minute, Amberly. So, I actually Googled no oil plant-based sauces, and a bunch of great stuff came up. One of them was from Juliana Heaver. I think some of you probably know her, the nutritionist. I think she's used to be out of Chicago, maybe. But that had 18 oil-free dressings and sauces. There was a barbecue sauce I saw that looked really good. And then going to YouTube, if you do the same thing, type in the same thing, plant-based oil-free sauces, there are a number of people who pop up where you not only can see or hear what it is that the sauce that they're talking about, but see them make it.
And sometimes you can see the ingredients, right? And say
Right.
maybe, okay, well, I have 3/4 of these ingredients. I can do this. And don't be afraid to go, wow, I'm missing one of those ingredients. I can't do it. You still need to have a dressing, and you still need to prepare something to cover your veggies. One of the staples that we do in our house is we just bake any kind of veggies that we have left over in the fridge that need to go soon. So we bake veggies. I cook some kind of grain, cook quickly, either in my pressure cooker and my rice cooker. And then I'll just take tamari, sprinkle it over the top. I'm a big fan of tahini dressing. I put tahini on salads. So tahini, think of it like a watered down version of hummus. You could put hummus on probably anything, right? So tahini, add a little bit of water to it, add a little bit of lemon or lime, as much garlic as your palate would like. For me, I like a lot of garlic in there, but you could even use garlic powder. You could use onion powder. If you don't have ginger, ginger powder. So you could use some of those spices that are sitting in your cupboard, waiting for you to interact with them. And you could really create pretty easily a little tahini dressing. And just go ahead and put that on fresh veggies. You could put that on a pasta. You could put that on a grain dish of any kind. I'm reading now, Eileen. Eileen, do you want to tell us a little bit about your umami seasoning? Oh, well, you get it from Trader Joe's. Do you mix it in a sauce? I see, you're gonna make a sauce. All right, so I'm gonna piggyback off that. So Trader Joe's has a lot of really interesting new spice mixtures that they've come out with. And Elaine is mentioning they have an umami seasoning line. And I've seen maybe like a chili lime recently. And they have one, I think the umami is a mixture of different mushrooms and maybe a little bit of a seaweed that goes in there. So they have different versions. And what I would inquire you to do is like go to a wall like that of spices, right? And go, what intrigues me? What does my palate like? And then go home. And could you add that to a non-dairy yogurt and mix that up? Could you add that to hummus and maybe water it down a little with maybe water or vegetable broth? So it doesn't have to be rocket science. It doesn't have to be out of this world, but it has to make your tongue happy. And if it makes your tongue happy, then you're going to continue to eat it and you're going to get that food down in your belly. So I think it's part of what Terry said is finding your taste, that your palate, that what you like, and how can you kind of feed that and feed that machine, if you will.
So it's a spoonful of tahini helps the vegetables go down.
Yes, right. Tahini helps anything.
So go ahead.
I was going to say one thing to look out for when you're creating, when you're creating a dressing at home or you're looking for them online. One of the links that I found came from No Meat Athlete, and it was like 7 no oil dressings, but all 7 of them were nut based. So yes, we're not having the oil, but if we're replacing our oil with a nut-based cheese, a nut-based dressing, we still have to be aware of those oils and those extra calories. And it might be good. Tahini definitely is in that family, so we have to be aware what's the base of what we're replacing it with. And a lot of people might have nut sensitivities or nut allergies, and so they're going to steer clear of that. And so that was why I really liked that E2 basic dressing that I mentioned, because it was nut-free and oil-free. And then don't be afraid. Stay with me. If you bake, if you do any kind of plant-based or vegan baking, you know that applesauce is a wonderful substitute for oil. So if you're making brownies, you could literally take out the 1/3 cup of oil and put in a 1/3 cup of applesauce. When I make dressings for Plant Joy, here's a tip for any of my awesome clients out there. When I make dressings for us, if any of the recipes that I use call for oil, I usually either reduce that oil by like 2/3, or I will remove it altogether and I replace applesauce in there. So if you ever see applesauce in my ingredient list and think that's weird, I'm removing the oil and I'm still going to get some of that thickness and consistency of the apples, which will help kind of thicken the sauce. And you're going to really take down that not a substantial, it's not a good oil, maybe not as a substantial of an oil that you might have, say, depict that you might drizzle on vegetables. So we just have to be aware of the oils and the nuts that we're using, because they can sneak in and they can really kind of bump that calorie and our fat content up. All right.
Great. Well, thanks,
Terry,
Amber.
Turn it back to you.
Great. Thanks a lot. And it's all about taste. I mean, or it's not all about taste, but it's certainly an important part, and that's a great way to make you look forward to those meals that much more. Thanks, Amberly.
Yeah, keep trying, keep getting in the kitchen and doing good stuff, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Our featured speaker tonight will be talking about your skin on plants. She is a magna cum laude graduate of Harvard and a graduate of Columbia University of Physicians and Surgeons, where she received both her MD with honors and her master's degree in public health. She completed her internship at Lenox Hill Hospital, for dermatology residency at SUNY Downstate Medical Center and a formal American College of Mohs surgery fellowship. She is board certified in cosmetic, laser, surgical, and medical dermatology. She's a fellow of the American Academy of Dermatology, the American Society for Dermatologic Surgery, and the American College of Mohs Surgery. She is also board certified in lifestyle medicine. She's been rated a top doctor for years by Castle Connolly and New York Magazine. She frequents the New York Super Doctors listings, as well as receiving the Best of Manhattan Award in dermatology. In addition to enjoying a robust practice in laser, cosmetic, and medical dermatology, she has studied integrative dermatology, as well as nutrition and lifestyle practices, and how they impact our whole being in terms of disease, health, and anti-aging, from inside our bodies out to what she likes to call the window to our health, our skin. She also enjoys serving on the medical advisory board of the large, active, nonprofit New York plant-based organization called Plant Powered Metro New York. It is my pleasure tonight to welcome our featured speaker, Dr. Jessica Krant. Dr. Krant?
Well, hello, everybody. Can you all hear me properly?
Yes.
I feel like that was so long of an introduction, like we should be done and go home now. I don't know where you got all that, but thank you so much. I'm a little embarrassed by all that, but I wanted to say most of all, thank you so much for inviting me, Terry, because I feel like I'm coming home. My mom was born in Milwaukee. And I see by your face, I didn't mention that to you before. So she grew up there when she was a little girl, and then she moved to Minneapolis and, really grew up in Minneapolis. And then met my dad and had me, and I grew up in Florida, but Milwaukee has always been, a place that has been special to our family because it's where my mom came from. So it's, such an honor to be with everybody. Let me see if I can figure out how to share my slides. I also want to say, people lurking in the audience, a couple of you, I know you're there, and I'm very honored that you would take your time to come hear me tonight, and everybody else who I haven't met. It's great to meet you all too. Let's see if I can do the share screen.
Don't see it yet.
No, I'm looking for the right screen. Oh, I tried to open it in a completely separate browser so that it would be free to be shared. But let me see.
I have done that before myself.
I guess that wasn't really realistic. Okay. Pardon me, everybody.
No problem. I think it's something everybody has experienced.
I thought I was going to make these slick and make it faster.
This is not something they teach you in medical school, apparently.
No, but I used to be good at it. This is just a little bit of an extra delay. Let me. All right, I'll try this again. There it is.
All right, there we go.
All right, everyone see that?
Yes.
Ta-da. Okay.
All right.
So as you all know, we're going to be talking about the benefits of plant-based diet for skin. And as Terry said, the reason that I am so excited about this topic, and it's been so energizing for me to get a chance to talk to people about it, is that I get to talk about everything, because I'm talking about the fact that the plant-based diet and healthy lifestyle actually helps us reduce and slow the aging of our skin and our appearance of aging. It also helps improve our skin health and in terms of skin disease and inflammatory skin conditions. And it also has the side benefit of improving all of our inner health as well, as we've already talked about tonight. Heart health, brain health, our immune systems, every organ is healthier on a plant-based diet. And it also helps our planet and it helps the animals. So it's like win, 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 win. And I just love it so much. So it's really great to be able to talk to you all tonight. What we're going to cover, and I'm going to try to go a little bit fast so that there might be some time at the end for Q&A, but just, shout out if I'm going too fast. We're going to talk about lifestyle factors and how they relate to our skin, because I am, as you mentioned, a lifestyle medicine physician. I'm going to talk about what lifestyle medicine as a field is, just briefly, for anybody who's not familiar. And then we're going to talk about how our gut health relates to our skin health and how our diet relates to our gut health. And then we're going to talk about how that diet affects our skin directly and how our diet can affect our aging in a few basic ways that we can think about it as a framework. And then I'll be able to answer some questions if you guys have any. I really am going to skip this slide pretty much because, as we already talked about, there was a long introduction, which I really appreciate. Thank you, Terry. But I wanted to mention also one thing that didn't get mentioned is that I am also a certified life coach. And one of the reasons that I really enjoy that is because the reality is we can learn every single week all the lessons about what we should eat and what we should be doing with our lives and our health. But it is still very hard on a day-to-day basis to come home and make those choices every single day. And the reason for that is that our modern lives are very stressful, very hectic and very full, schedules full, busy. Everybody's pretty much working. And there's not a lot of bandwidth to focus on ourselves and put ourselves first, focus on our health and make all of the choices that are required to be able to sustain that. So what I like to do as a life coach is actually help people organize, reorganize, and improve their lives overall to reduce stress in every possible arena and to optimize joy at work, with family, with loved ones and relationships, with our dreams and our goals, so that all of the bandwidth we put out to manage and control all of that gives us a little bit of extra bandwidth back to be able to take care of ourselves. And talking about coaching and what the issues are in our lives really helps do that as a whole. And it's a little bit different from a health coach who's mostly focused on how to get you healthy habits and what you're actually eating. It's sort of a broader approach that I choose to take, and I have really been enjoying helping people in that way. And I also started a podcast a couple months ago, and I just have 2 episodes out right now and more soon to come. But I'm really enjoying that as well for anybody who wants to venture into podcast world. That my podcast, Save Your Own Skin, talking about saving ourselves from the inside out, and of course about skin health. It is on every platform. So for anybody who does listen to podcasts. Lifestyle medicine is a field of medicine that you guys are familiar with because I believe you recently had Dr. Greger on, right? So anyone who was here for Dr. Greger probably heard the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine. And what they are 6 pillars that have been identified as having evidence-based results when we optimize lifestyles in each of the categories. It's our nutrition, our food as medicine. It's our exercise and physical activity. It's our sleep health and our sleep hygiene, our sleep habits. Healthy sleep is key. It's our stress management, mindfulness, meditation, and management of our inner world, and it's our social networks, friendships, healthy relationships, and management of our outer world and how we relate to each other. That's the fifth pillar. And the sixth pillar is minimizing toxic substances in the environment and in our bodies, like alcohol, smoking, and if possible, environmental pollution, environmental toxins, toxins in our food. And for me as a dermatologist, excuse me, I also like to talk about minimizing toxins that might be in our skincare products, which we're really at the beginning of that science and understanding what's going on there, but it's worth paying attention to and trying to keep our skincare as clean as possible. Those are the 6 pillars. And the reason that we care is that when we optimize all of the 6 of those pillars, it impacts all of our health. Here you see from the inside out, from our gut to our skin. And the reason we know is that we're able to compare people who live with these pillars optimized to people who do not. And of course, the most robust scientific way of comparing is to compare people who have the same DNA, identical twins, who live different lifestyles. The field of epigenetics is one of my favorite topics to talk about because it's the field not only of our DNA, which is our little familiar DNA spiral in the middle, that's our genes that we are born with, but epigenetics, the epi genes, are what happens with all of the signaling that we send to our DNA to tell our DNA and our genes what genes to turn on, what genes to turn off. Turn on the genes for a good head of hair, turn off the genes for tending to carry excess weight. And we can control so much of our actual health, our lifestyle, and our health outcomes by our lifestyle choices. You can see this is intended to be a cartoon of either identical twins or really of the same guy living in 2 different ways. Guy on the left, healthy lifestyle, activity outdoors, fresh fruits and vegetables, and not staying inside on the couch with all the junk food, watching TV all day. And you can see this is the same guy, and the health outcome and even the appearance of what happens when you control your epigenetics in one direction or another. I know there's things appearing in the chat. If anybody's trying to ask me a question, let's definitely leave it for later. But if it's something that you want to interrupt me to ask, please let Terry know, because I can't see anybody right now, just to be clear. I see no faces. So you guys just jump in and let me know if there's something I need to fix.
So Dr. Krant, yeah, for anybody, you can begin to put questions in that we'll address later, but during the presentation, we'll let Dr. Krant go so that everybody gets a chance to hear the entire presentation.
All right, I see I already talked about this, so I'm just gonna skip this slide and get to my favorite slide, the donut. Why am I showing a terrible, unhealthy, delicious looking donut in a plant-based food talk? It's not because I think we should be eating donuts. It's because when I learned this fact that I'm going to share with you, I was so excited. I just thought it was so cool, because the donut shape, which is called a torus, that's that in geometry, that shape, that round shape is called a torus that has the hole in the middle, T-O-R-U-S. That is the shape that explains why our gut health and our skin health are so closely related. They are almost like the inside and outside layers of our body, and they behave so similarly. And it is because when we are first being developed as embryos, we create a ball of cells as we're growing, and that ball is called a blastula, and it's solid with full of cells that are developing. And eventually, when the early embryo is ready, it starts to get a little divot. It looks like an olive. And that hole ends up going all the way through the embryo, and it turns into a torus shape. That doesn't look like the shape of a donut, but it's the similar torus shape with the hole all the way through. And this is a mouse embryo, just to show that that same surface that was on the outside it just tucks in, and it's the same surface that goes all the way through. And then that white line is the spine developing. But I just think it's so neat because it shows that it's not a mistake that our gut and our skin are so closely connected in our health. They are physically connected in the way I just showed you. They originally were the same surface, and they're functionally very similar. They both let the good things into our bodies while working hard when they're healthiest to keep the bad out. They both contain the sources of our largest immune systems because these are the surfaces of our body that are in touch with the outside world. It's either going in this way or it's going in this way. And that's where our most active and robust immune systems are found. And they both have, I'm going to give away a secret that I think comes up later. They both have microbiomes, which is a balance, like a forest of microbes, bacteria, fungi, and other yeast and other microorganisms that live in a healthy balance that protect us and help us thrive. And why do they do that? Because they live on us and they want us to thrive. So when they're working well, our gut and our skin both have microbiomes, and we want to learn how to take care of them both. Our gut and our brains are connected. You guys have probably heard about the gut-brain axis, when, you know, how we eat actually can affect our cognition, our mood, and our brain health. And we have a gut-skin axis as well. How we eat directly affects our skin health and our skin behavior. And as well, we now know that there's a gut, brain, and skin axis, and they all talk to each other. I'm not going to go into all the science now, but it is completely fascinating to me. So how does our diet and our lifestyle affect our skin health? Besides just physically eating plants and having healthy skin, I also just want to briefly mention the fact that this also relates to other topics you guys have talked about, diabetes and heart disease, because one of the factors is directly carrying some excess weight and excess adipose tissue creates an inflammatory environment in our bodies. And that actually can trigger skin disease and other health issues like heart disease because of the hormonally related inflammation that the extra fatty tissue carries. So a lot of people can be relatively healthy at a heavier weight, but some people really have a problem. And it's proven in certain skin diseases like psoriasis, hidradenitis suppurativa, which is an inflammatory condition of getting cysts in the skin folds that can be very painful and scarring. And in diabetes, which has a lot of skin findings, that losing weight actually helps the skin get more clear. Losing weight may actually clear up psoriasis. And that's something that wasn't always known. The relationship between weight and diabetes has to do with insulin resistance. As you all probably know, when we eat a clean, low, no oil, low fat, only plant fat based diet, we're able to unclog our muscle cells and our liver cells of all the junk that builds up that makes them function poorly. And when they're functioning poorly from animal fats and animal oils and from eating animal proteins, they're not able to respond to insulin, and they're not able to let insulin push healthy blood sugar into the cells. So what happens is the blood sugar stays in our blood and doesn't go into the cells to give them energy. And the insulin in our bodies, which is the hormone trying to get the sugar in, goes higher and higher and higher, trying to push the sugar into the cells. And so we end up with high sugar and we end up with high insulin. And both of those separately are directly damaging for our skin. They both lead to excess growth factors in our skin and growing things we don't want. We grow skin tags, we can grow benign seborrheic keratoses. We get a thickening and darkening of the skin and skin folds. It can almost look like velvety, called acanthosis nigricans. And we can grow unwanted hair, and we can even develop acne And all of that can be directly related to the insulin resistance that we can create with an unhealthy diet, which is why it's very rewarding for me to get to educate my acne patients and my other patients about how just changing their diet can make such a huge difference. And I mentioned earlier that our skin and our guts both have microbiomes. And as you all know, I'm sure, the concept of eating that meat-based diet creates metabolites from the microorganisms in our gut that want to eat meat. Those are dangerous microorganisms for us to feed and grow because they shoot off metabolites that are inflammatory and damaging to our gut lining. Whereas when we eat a high fiber diet, it actually is food for healthy microbiome, healthy microbes that we want in our gut. And when those thrive, they give off metabolites that create a healthy lining of the gut, a mucin that protects our bodies. And again, protects like the skin barrier. We get that barrier in our gut lining that keeps the bad and the environment out and only absorbs the good stuff that we want to absorb. So we heal our leaky gut. We reduce inflammation in our bodies overall if we eat a high fiber plant-based diet. So when we don't eat a healthy diet, it actually does have direct impact on our skin in other ways. Dysbiosis in our gut has now been directly linked to rosacea. The SIBO condition, which is small intestine bacterial overgrowth, has been linked so directly to rosacea that I now know to ask my rosacea patients when they come in with really inflamed red faces, if they're having any trouble with their digestion. And I have been absolutely shocked when so many say, how did you know? I've been going to a GI doctor for years. And nobody had an idea really until now that the skin and the gut are so directly linked. In some of my patients, I've actually helped to diagnose them because I've asked them about digestion issues that they had no idea were related to their skin. And I've had them go get a workup with a GI specialist. So that's been really interesting to learn. Eczema as well. Inflamed skin, itchy skin can also be greatly affected by the quality of our diet. Inflammatory bowel disease, which includes Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, also can have impact on the skin. Ulcerative colitis can have inflammatory skin rashes, and Crohn's disease actually can have some tracts and some problems that lead all the way to the skin surface. And when we eat a healthy diet, we reduce the activity of that autoimmune cycle, and it heals our gut and it heals the Crohn's disease, and it also helps the skin. And finally, just to mention another famous one, true celiac disease is a condition where we are allergic to gluten. It is a true allergy to gluten. And when we eat gluten, it inflames and really tears up our GI and our gut lining. That actually has a rash that is very famous that goes along with it. That's very itchy, inflamed bumps on the elbows called dermatitis herpetiformis. So I know when I see somebody that comes in with that they are likely to be somebody who truly has celiac disease. And if they don't know it, I'm able to help them by referring them to a GI specialist. So we've talked a little bit about acne and insulin resistance, and we've talked about rosacea, eczema, psoriasis. And I wanted to mention that a lot of people feel that eating foods that you're allergic to will create eczema and rashes, which can happen. But I learned a fascinating thing earlier this year that I think Dr. In-Young Kim, who's probably maybe still in the audience, also knows from our colleague, Dr. Peter Leo. He taught me something fascinating. He's a researcher of children who have eczema. And he learned that it's actually children who have eczema, when they get a food exposed through their skin when they're babies and infants, the exposure through skin is not a normal pathway for us to be exposed to food. And that exposure through eczema, inflamed skin can actually create an allergy to that food. So it may be that eczema is actually a pathway to create food allergies and not the reverse. Before I talk about this slide, I just want to mention acne. One of the biggest triggers of acne that we know for sure that has been proven in multiple studies is dairy. So if anybody that you know of is suffering from breakouts and they're not fully plant-based, the easiest thing to first ask them to try is to reduce dairy, stop eating cheese, and reduce also excess sugar. Processed sugar and dairy are the two biggies for acne. So that's just a quick take home. This slide is just meant to show that there are some factors we can control in our health overall. And, you know, I'm a dermatologist, so people care about their aging appearance. And we can control some of the factors that relate to that, which are on the right side of the wheel here: our complexion, our weight, our overall health. We cannot control genetically everything about us, but we can do something by our lifestyle choices. And the piece de resistance, it's fun for me to get to talk a little bit about anti-aging diet and anti-aging lifestyle, because I know that I'm also talking to people about how to get themselves healthier overall. So I can sneak in what can sometimes pique people's interest, but also get them on the right path. And that's really been rewarding for me. An anti-aging diet has three main pillars. The first part is that we want it to fight cellular oxidation, because oxidation is like rusting and damaging of cells. We want antioxidant foods, fruits and vegetables. We want high vitamin C and vitamin E, beta carotene, which is vitamin A. Selenium and lycopene are also antioxidants, and spices and herbs are highly antioxidant. Green tea and extremely dark chocolate, by which I mean, like, I'm eating these days 95% dark chocolate, because the closer you get to milk chocolate, the more dairy and the more sugar is in there, and cocoa butter, and it actually becomes very unhealthy and may trigger breakouts. The darkest possible chocolate has the least likely chance of triggering acne breakouts and the highest benefit for us in terms of our health. I have a bar in my freezer, and I eat about 1 square every week, or even less. Sometimes they last me a long time. That works for me. I don't know if that would work for everybody. I also wanted to mention on the benefits of the plant-based diet and the cartoon that the video we saw earlier. When I became 100% plant-based, I actually, you know, that cartoon shows them being 30-pound difference. I lost 38 pounds, and I didn't try to do anything. I actually ate as much food as I wanted, and I basically ate whenever I wanted. I didn't try to intermittently fast or do any kind of gimmicks. I said, I can only abide by one rule. That's the rule. And that was my rule. And I just didn't eat animal products anymore. And over about 5 or 6 months, maybe 7 months total, I ended up losing 38 pounds, which was really great for, you know, my closet, I have to say. That worked out very well, considering I was holding on to some old clothes and now I get to wear them again. Okay. So part 2 of an anti-aging diet is that we want to fight sugar-based glycation and the glycation that can be caused by animal protein and cooking animal fat. Glycation means that our collagen, which we want to be kind of stringy and flexible, it gets cross-linked and it becomes brittle. And when our collagen becomes brittle, it breaks and it doesn't support us in its normal, healthy, juicy way. And we don't make collagen in this healthy a way as we do when we're avoiding inflammatory things like sugar, white flour, and processed.
What?
What are you putting in the ramen?
I'm not even sure we're doing ramen.
And part 3 of the anti-aging diet is that we want an anti-inflammatory diet
Salad?
that fights inflammation, which I like to call inflammaging, because when we are carrying inflammation in our bodies, it definitely is proven to age our skin. So I've listed here just some of the more common anti-aging foods that I'm sure you all are incorporating already into your diets. Building collagen, there's a lot of hype now about collagen supplements, and people who are plant-based are not going to be taking these powdered collagen supplements because they are animal-based. So there are a lot of plant-based boosters out there, plant-based collagen booster, and it's basically powdered, ground up fruits and vegetables. I think we can do it ourselves, eating a widely varied diet, and don't need the supplementation. But for people who want to build collagen, you can concentrate on the cruciferous vegetables and the dark chocolate and a wide variety of nuts and seeds. Omega-3s, the healthy oils from our avocados, walnuts, and sunflower and pumpkin seeds, and the antioxidants for our anti-aging diet from all of these things. It's basically like listing everything. So over here on the right, you see our healthy plant plate. You all, I don't know if Dr. Clapper has spoken with you all in your group. I forgot what you said, Terry, but he usually likes to say, when he's talking about the benefits of a plant-based diet, your body is never not looking. It always knows what you're sneaking in when you think nobody's looking. Your body knows. And he did once give a talk about plant-based diet for skin health, which was really fascinating. And he actually did say, your skin is never not looking. And I was so glad I caught that, because that's my motto. Your skin is never not looking. It will show. It is the window to what's going on inside, and it will show the quality of your diet and the health of your lifestyle. Because healthy skin, as Dr. Howard Murad, the famous skin product dermatologist, said, healthy skin is a reflection of our overall wellness. And that's just absolutely true. So our big takeaway tonight is that every lifestyle choice that we make, every lifestyle choice, not just our diet. I didn't even get to talk tonight about sleep and exercise and stress and how they affect our skin, but I would love to anytime. It always will impact our skin health and our skin aging and our body's internal health and our body's in overall aging. But thank you so much, everybody, for having me and for sticking with me through all of these slides. I hope it was interesting and you learned at least a little tidbit here and there. This is the second half of 2021. So, we made New Year's resolutions a long time ago, 8 months ago now. It is time. We have 5 months left to refocus and recommit and hit the end of the year running. Don't wait for January to try to change your life. Just do it now, little baby steps. It's all about baby steps. Stick with your community for support, whoever your community is. My mom and you all and I feel so honored to hopefully be an honorary part of PB Now. Is that how you pronounce it? And keep getting education and reach out to your leaders for support. So if you all want to just keep in touch with me and get healthy tips I'm going to send out, and education and announcements about programs I'm going to be putting together, group education programs, group coaching, and one-on-one coaching and education programs, you can all go to jessicakrant.com PB Now. And there's my Instagram and my podcast name again. And thank you so much for having me. I'm going to stop the share and see if there's any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Krant. That was a lot of excellent information, and I'm sure there are going to be some questions. I'd ask that people put your questions in the chat. Try to keep them concise if possible. And Dr. Krant, when we start asking them, if you can try to keep it to 30 seconds to a minute, so we can get as many in as possible. That'd be great. And I'm going to start off. So I've got a quick question on carrots. I know that people I've heard that people sometimes will eat carrot for various reasons, eat a lot of carrots, carrot juice, that type of thing, and actually somewhat change their skin color when they have too much of it. Can you eat too much? Are carrots good for you, good for your skin?
Carrots are one of the natural sources of beta carotene, which is the food source of vitamin A. Vitamin A is actually the root of one of the most powerful acne medications that there is, Accutane, that famous Accutane. But vitamin A is also what's used to derive Retin-A, all the retinol anti-aging creams at the drugstore. Those are all vitamin A derivatives. So we would like to do things naturally from the inside out and give our bodies plenty of vitamin A. It's much healthier to eat it in the form of plants, the brightly red and orange, especially tomatoes and bell peppers and carrots have a lot of beta carotene. And there are also a variety of carotenes. So we don't just want only carrots. Actually I've seen it and I've caught it in patients and called them on it. When you eat a lot, I won't say too many, but when you eat a lot of carrots or a lot of sweet potatoes, it actually can turn you orange and it's visible. I could see when I walk in the room if somebody's a big sweet potato eater, their skin looks orange, but it's not dangerous.
Excellent. Faye asked, I understand that PFOAs are often used in cosmetics, that some have waterproof, that's example mascara, or staying power like lipsticks. Do you have any comments on that?
I'm not really an expert in the toxins in cosmetics and skin products yet. I'm learning more about it. I'm really more of a lifestyle and food person right now, but it's true. Those are chemicals that affect our health, and there are a lot of cosmetics and even skin creams and shampoos and bathing agents and cleansers that contain endocrine disrupting chemicals. So it's worth researching and looking up and trying your best to avoid them, but there really hasn't been proof for sure that something like mascara or lipstick alone has caused cancer or a specific health problem in an actual grown human. But I think we're going to be moving in the world toward less toxic personal care products over time.
Great. And Katie mentioned while you were talking about dark chocolate that cacaolaboratory.com has 100% raw cacao.
Ooh.
And amazing for making hot chocolate. Thank you,
Yeah.
Katie.
I have 100% cacao powder, and but it's not the same as biting into a chocolate bar. So I don't know if they have the chocolate bars, which, by the way, a good tip is to, like I said, I keep it in my freezer because that makes it like a real little treat. I break off one square and leave the rest in the freezer. So I don't just inhale the entire candy bar.
I do remember Dr. Orange mentioned that's a treat that he partakes in as well, chocolate. Let's see, is there any new, David asks, is there any new evidence that whole food plant-based diet fights skin cancer? I don't know if you touched on that or.
There is. Well, there's definitely evidence that whole food plant-based diet reduces the risk of getting skin cancer. And I do believe that whole food plant-based diet improves the outcome in all types of cancer. So I know there are studies about skin cancer specifically, and I haven't reviewed them very recently, but I'm sure that it's beneficial, possibly extremely beneficial. So I would love a chance to come back and answer that another time potentially.
Sure. Mary Ann said thanks. And thank you, Dr. Krant. And what foods can be eaten to slow the synthesis of melatonin?
Oh, melanin.
Melanin.
Interestingly, I'm not sure because melanin is our skin pigmentation, and it's a healthy benefit to us when it's healthy and normal. But there are some cases where we're producing excessive melanin and uneven melanin in terms of conditions like melasma. I do know that melasma is worse when it turns out that somebody is low in iron deficiency. So if you are suffering from melasma and you have low iron, see if you can eat more plant foods that concentrate a little bit more on increasing your iron. That's one answer I can give for that.
Do you have some examples of plant foods that would help to increase the iron, or did you just mention? Soy has a lot of iron, and edamame. I just looked at a list of iron containing foods that I should have memorized better. But was it Amber Lee? Is Amber Lee still here? She probably knows. Yeah, I don't think so. She
Okay.
has a young one at home and has.
It's easy to Google plant-based plants that have high iron and try to concentrate on that. These are questions I absolutely should know the answer to off the top of my head, but I can't remember right now.
I remember Amberly mentioned that her husband was gone today, so their very young one, she is watching at the same time, and was worried that she may come in there and try to be a participant in the meeting at some point. So something. I've got a question in regard to skin cancer. There are people in vitamin D. So vitamin D is something that it's supposedly the best way to get it is through the skin with natural sunlight outside. But if somebody's got skin cancer and they're trying to avoid being out in the sun too much, is that I don't know if this is in your area or not, but would you recommend another way to get the vitamin D or
well, before I answer that, I want to point everybody to thank you, Dr. In-Young Kim, my colleague, who gave the real answer about the iron, about the melanin and the diet in the chat. So that's the real complete answer. Is really valuable.
So if everybody goes to the chat, if you're not already in it,
It says to reduce melanin, eat fruits high in antioxidants, oranges, berries, tangerines, papaya, limes, kiwi, guava, lemons, mangoes, grapes, spinach, carrots, beetroot, broccoli, things that increase glutathione can reduce melanin production. So that's the real scientific answer. And I appreciate that. Thank you, In-Young. Your question was how to get vitamin D without getting too much sun.
Mm-hmm.
Am I summarizing that?
Right.
I'm as a busy New York City doctor running around all the time, I'm not 100% at being able to make sure I get every single nutrient in every single food evenly organized. So I take a 5,000 unit vitamin D supplement every day, and I take vitamin B12. Those are two that I make sure that I keep up with as a supplement, because I can't be 100% sure I'll get enough in my diet. And other than that, I know that it's a little bit harder to get vitamin D in a 100% plant-based diet, but there are definitely sources, especially fortified plant milks and things like that, among others that other people may know.
Thank you. And Vicki, thank you for adding that about spinach has iron, which Dr. In-Young Kim also mentioned. Eileen asks, is there any remedy for broken capillaries on the face?
If they're true broken capillaries, probably the only thing that will really make a difference is getting a laser treatment. Those are sort of end stage. They've already been expanded for such a long time that they no longer shrink back and they're not really functioning properly. So changing diet won't really change the broken capillaries. Changing diet can reduce flushing and pinkness and heat and redness that over time leads to the permanently broken capillaries. So it's worth addressing with diet to calm the skin. And if it's a true inflammatory rosacea situation, make sure that there's no SIBO condition or other imbalance in the gut, and that the gut lining is healthy. That makes a big difference. But the actual broken capillaries may need laser.
Thank you. And David asks, is there any new info on the cause of, I think this is cicatricial alopecia?
I'm not familiar with new information about in terms of diet, but cicatricial means scarring and alopecia means hair loss. So scarring, hair loss can be created in a few different pathways. Some of them are autoimmune or inflammatory, and those may be preventable or manageable with stress reduction and dietary change and the lifestyle modifications. I don't know if there's been really robust research on that specifically, but if I have a patient with an inflammatory condition or an autoimmune condition, I'm definitely going to focus working with them and changing their lifestyle.
And Dr. Kim mentioned D3 combined with K2 helps increase absorption, and there are plant-based options.
Oh, good. Thank you so much, In Young. She's brilliant. So I'm so happy she's here to help. You can have her come talk too.
I would like to talk to you about that afterwards or tomorrow. And Dr. Lenz said he'd love to share a skin story and ask a question. Dr. Lenz, you want to unmute?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I went plant-based about 11 years ago, and I had acne rosacea, just had come on right before that. And it went away after I went plant-based, which is just very interesting. I'm a med-peds physician who's gone plant-based for 11 years for cardiovascular risk initially and diabetes risk initially, but just kind of a neat story. And this was a very good talk. You don't hear a lot of the talk because people don't, unless it's skin cancer, you don't die of acne rosacea. But I think this empowers the physicians here that have heard this to add that to instead of, I don't know, we just get rosacea, it's something you get as you get older. With that, I'm curious if you have any reversal information, what percent, if they've done any reversal studies with this, that would be my one question.
Well, I'm really, before I answer that, I would like to say it's really been great that there's been more and more research in skin health and diet, especially plant-based diet, because all of those things that were kind of floating around for decades about whether dairy affects, causes acne, or whether fried foods or chocolate cause acne, we're getting more data that is clarifying what's really going on. And that's really beneficial and helpful. Dairy is causing it in a bunch of different ways, by the way. The dairy proteins themselves, the hormones in the dairy, and also the sugars in the dairy, all different contribute to acne and skin inflammation in different ways. People who stop eating dairy, it's like somebody who stops drinking heavily. Their skin completely changes. It just, a little bit of puffiness and inflammation and redness that may always be there, it actually can just melt away. So it's really a great change to see people if they're able to adopt it. Is there data on reversal in rosacea of what happens when you change your diet and what happens to the rosacea? I don't know. In Young, do you know if there's specific research showing reversal of rosacea specifically? Maybe
I was just curious about any of the dermatologic skin conditions, whether it's psoriasis or acne, vulgaris, anything, any condition.
I don't know the percentages off the top of my head. Next talk will be more about going through studies and talking about specific data. I know this was a little bit of a kind of high level conceptual overview. I didn't know that, I didn't really know exactly who was in the audience, so I didn't want to make it too technical. So I will look it up.
Thanks for the question, Dr. Lenz. And let's see, Vicky asks, is there anything you can do to reduce stretch marks and scars?
Well, I don't know of whether changing the diet to a plant-based diet affects them directly. but I do know that they do tend to fade and improve by themselves over time. And other than that, possibly those retinoids, it may be that eating a lot of the beta carotene containing vitamin A foods helps, because the retinoids, skin creams, can help to remodel collagen and try to stimulate healthy skin cells to form again. But mainly, we're mostly talking about laser treatments and, you know, normalizing stretch marks for people, because they're really not easy to completely get rid of.
David mentioned that his wife had bad rosacea when they met, and it disappeared when she went vegan. Thank you,
Great.
Dave. Dr. Kim mentioned, I don't think so with rosacea in terms of reversal. However, from clinical experience, Dr. Kim does see a difference for sure.
Yeah, she was talking about the rosacea, and then Fraxel is one of the laser options for stretch marks. And depending on the type of scarring, there are so many different types of scars and causes of scars. They really have to be individually evaluated, and then personal planning for each person, because there's a big difference in how we would approach acne scars on the face versus surgical scars on the body and other types of traumatic scars. Thank you all for sticking in here so long. It's, you know, I take it as a compliment. I appreciate it. And thank you for your time. What other questions does anyone have?
Oh, I've got one more, and it's not plant-based, but it's but I know it's something that you've talked about before, and that has to do, and this is summer related. So wearing sunglasses during the summertime in the bright sun, is that a beneficial thing and not a beneficial thing? I think you mentioned it during a Chef AJ talk.
Wearing truly sun protective sunglasses that are big stops the ultraviolet radiation and other parts of the spectrum from getting to our eye skin. And it really does protect aging of the eye area, which includes the breakdown and destruction of the collagen, the elastin that keeps our skin juicy and keeps our skin from getting thinner. And when our skin under our eyes gets thin, we can see those dark circles and the hollows, because we're seeing through the skin to natural blood vessels that are underneath. So if you care about keeping the eye area from aging, it's good to always be an avid sunglass wearer and just become like a movie star and never be outside without them. It also helps protect your eye health and your retinas and your lenses and your corneas from getting damaged from the ultraviolet radiation as well. It reduces the chance of melanoma in the retina in the back of your eye, and it reduces the risk of cataracts and other problems. So it is healthier for our eyes to wear the sunglasses. I have to say, I don't generally do it, but I should.
So the big wraparound fisherman sunglasses are a good thing for your skin.
They're good for the skin and for protecting the eye health as well.
And last question here, Katie asks, can you touch on the effect of masks on the skin and how we can help support our skin while using masks to prevent damage and irritation?
You know, it's so sad. At first, I thought you meant like clay masks and cosmetic masks. And then I realized you meant masks for the pandemic. And that just made me sad. So I'm having a lot of patients come in with rashes and what we're calling mask knee, which is really acne that's really breaking out around the mask area. It is not easy. Changing masks to clean masks and trying to get something that's protective but not too heavy, and just keeping skin very clean under the mask. You know, I would say don't put your sunscreen and makeup on your lower part of your face if you're going to be wearing a mask, because It's just too much for the skin to handle sometimes. We're also breathing under there. So I hate to say it, but brush your teeth, keep your breath healthy and low on bacteria, so that when you're under the mask all day, it's not putting so much bad stuff on your skin.
Thank you so much, Dr. Krant. And if you
Oh,
and
no.
Dr.
Katie, don't
could
worry.
stay-
I'm not really sad. I mean, we're all in it together. Don't worry.
if you
Sorry,
and Dr.
Terry.
If you and Dr. Kim could stay on a little bit longer, just so I can get some contact information and that type of thing, that'd be great. And for everybody else, thanks for being here tonight. We intend to have a meeting in September on the second Tuesday, but to be determined as far as what the program will be. And if you'd like to receive notice of this or upcoming PB Now events, go to pbnow.org for that. And here's hoping you stay safe, happy, and healthy. Good night, everybody.
Hi, Terry. Thanks, Dr. Krant.
My pleasure. Thank you all for having me so much.
I'm going to try to go on the chat here and see Dr. Kim, if it's possible for you to go on the chat directly to me and add your contact information, then I can try to get a hold of you either by if you have phone or email or something like that.
And I can always
Try-
connect you to Dr. Kim is also an integrative dermatology expert, and she's just, as you can see, she's really brilliant. So I
Oh,
hope
my
you don't
goodness.
mind, In Young, me putting you on the spot here.
That was really wonderful, Jessica. That was really, really great. I actually, honestly, I don't even know what platform this is.
It's
My
Zoom.
colleague so I'm actually in Milwaukee. And I'm with Aurora, and a colleague just sent me this link and said, "Oh, this is Derm," and I said, "Oh, okay. Oh, I know Jessica." So I just joined, but I don't even know like what group this is or anything.
So it was that Becky Schultz
It
who
was
sent you the information?
Sarah Pierce. She is the
Sure.
head
Sure,
of
we've done-
integrative medicine. Yeah.
Yeah, we've actually, Jessica, if you've got, and Dr. Pierce has interest in this too. Dr. Pierce facilitates, I think they're called med talks to to primary care physicians and other physicians within the Aurora system, which is in southeast or southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois type of thing. So you can end up with a lot of physicians on there. And we actually had Dr. Barnard for a med talk with I think that was Dr. Pierce.
Yeah.
But I know that we got a speaker for Dr. Pierce for something. I'm not sure if she runs that. But we also have done a couple other ones with integrative, with the integrative residents. And I forgot what the other one was too. So if you have any interest in talking to them, Dr. Krant, that's
Absolutely. Any time, of course, I would be honored.
So Dr. Kim, can I get your phone and your email?
Yeah, sure. Let's see. I'll just put it here.
Yeah, that way, and I can take a. Yeah, thanks for sticking on a little bit longer here, Dr. Krant. Yeah, that was outstanding.
Thank you for having me.
There were a number of things that you put up there that we have not had heard from, and we've heard from a lot of primary care physicians, a lot of specialists. But skin is something, as you mentioned, that everybody has an interest in.
Right.
And
they better.
Yeah. For all those, all the reasons you talked about, but certainly the fashion magazines, there's a lot written on it. So I know it always
very popular. But I like I said, I like to be able to talk about that but sneak in the fact that they're actually going to be taking better care of themselves and their health. So it's great.
Well, I wish there was more of that that we can do there. I'm still waiting for the person who comes up with the, just the, I'm trying to think of the perfect way to get the message across. It's kind of like with the vaccine, if there was somebody who could get that message across, like the Mothers Against Drunk Driving, people used to drink all the time while they were driving, and they brought the responsibility into it. They talked about the people who were hurt by it. And my 30-plus-year-old son, he wouldn't think of drinking and driving. That whole generation is different because of that. So if there
Well,
were,
Terry, I think you're doing it. You are the platform. You're part of it. You're the solution.
Well, thanks a lot. We're trying to do it, but I know that I'm constantly looking for ways and listening to people like you for ways to kind of open that door so that that light goes off for people and they can improve their lives and that of their family and friends and colleagues.
Well, thank you so much for eyeballing me and inviting and reaching out to invite me. I really appreciate it.
Sure. Well, thanks again, Jessica, and I will take you up on that, inviting you to do this again.
Oh, definitely. I would love to answer the things I wasn't as clear about and talk more about some specific dermatology data, because this was more of the general concept. So that would be great. Let me know.
And we did pull in a number of more physicians than we
Well,
usually do.
right. I mean, I need to step up my game if I'm talking to doctors. So that'll be good. That'll be good for me to get that stuff together.
Right. That sounds great. Well, thanks, Jessica. And thanks, Dr. Kim.